Hello and welcome to Global Eye. I'm Parikshit Luthra. The top story we are tracking this week. Pakistan's Election Commission has announced the provisional results following a delay in counting even 10 hours after polls closed. As per early trends, the grouping of independent candidates affiliated to Imran Khan's PTI has taken the lead in the National Assembly. Imran Khan is at present in jail over an alleged corruption case. The crackdown on his party began in April 22 after he was removed from power. PML Nawaz, which is the single largest party so far, emerges as the close second, followed by Bilawal Bhutto's Pakistan People's Party. Despite lagging behind, Nawaz Sharif is upbeat about making a victory speech once the final results are out. Sharif's party has secured victory in the National Assembly seats from Punjab's Lahore. The country's political landscape is largely dominated by three major parties: the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf and Pakistan People's Party. The incoming government will have to grapple with formidable challenges that include handling of internal conflicts, a significant economic crisis, and illegal migration. Joining me now to take this discussion forward is Tilak Devasher, author and member of the National Security Advisory Board, and Sharat Sabharwa, former Indian ambassador to Pakistan. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Mr. Devasher, let me begin by asking you to highlight the atmosphere in which this election in Pakistan is actually taking place. You've seen a series of explosions in Balochistan ahead of the polling. 28 people were killed. Phone services, internet has been suspended. What are the forces at play right now?
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show. You see, in the run-up to the elections, this is probably one of the most lackluster atmosphere in terms of atmosphere elections in Pakistan. Pakistani elections are very colorful, full of song and dance and jalsas, jaluses and all kinds of things. This time the campaigning was very lackluster. That's the first thing that strikes you about these elections. Second, yes, there has been violence, but violence in KPK and Balochistan, which has, in any case, these two provinces have been rocked by violence during the last year or year and a half. In fact, 90% of all the violent incidents have taken place in these two provinces. So violence is something which is, endemic to these two provinces. But yes, in the run-up to the elections too, these incidents which you talked about, and there was an incident, I think even yesterday there was an incident at the time of voting. There has also been violent incident today when some protesters had protested against in one particular constituency in Shangla. The police opened fire and between 2 to 4 people have died. So this election is marred. And you're right, the mobile and internet services were put off 1 minute before the election process began, citing security concerns. And they remained off for a long time, which again mars the transparency and independence of the elections. So all these things put together, lackluster election, violence, putting off the internet and mobile services, all leads to the conclusion that the elections were not very transparent, neither free nor fair, which in any case Pakistan is difficult to accept, that elections will be free and fair. But all these things add up to that.
Right. Important points there. Let me go across to Ambassador Sabharwa. Ambassador Sabharwa, we are looking at early leads for independent candidates affiliated to Imran Khan. What do these leads really mean? Because the popular party or the popular candidate in this election was Nawaz Sharif. The fact that the independents who are backed by Imran Khan, who are close to the PTI, are doing well, has come as a surprise to many election observers.
Well, it came as a surprise only because too many people had convinced themselves that this election was fixed to the extent of, everything had been tied up to bring PMLN to power, and that Nawaz Sharif would become Prime Minister the 4th time. That is not happening. That doesn't seem to be happening unless, something happens now, which enables those kind of outcomes. So therefore, it came as a surprise. But if you look at it on another plane, it is not a surprise because Imran Khan's popularity hadn't gone down. He had gained significantly in popularity after he was ousted from power. There was no indication that popularity had gone down. In fact, 1 or 2 polls that came out last month showed his popularity rating as about 60% or so. The only question was whether his supporters would, get discouraged and stay back home on the election day, polling day, or would they come out in large numbers? It seems that they came out in large numbers to vote for him. It is also some kind of endorsement of the anti-army stance that he had taken. So taken all those things together, you have these large number of independents. In fact, last night, when TV channels started showing the results, initial results, in too many constituencies, the independents were leading. Then, of course, there was a delay in releasing the results, a long delay. And now they are being released, and the picture seems to be changing a little bit in favor of PMLN and PPP together constituting more than half. And the number of independents staying below the halfway mark so far, for the results that I have seen on popular TV channels in Pakistan. So that is the situation.
Right. Mr. Devasher, coming back to you, considering a scenario where the candidates who belong to the PTI but fighting independently are able to secure a majority in this election, how challenging would it be for them to form a government in the current volatile political and security environment in Pakistan?
I think it will be very difficult. You see, as independents, they're not bound by party discipline. So they can be persuaded to join either the PMLN or the PPP as the establishment wants them to cobble up a government. So for them to maintain their independence and to sort of continue and then to come together to form a government, I think it's going to be very, very difficult and challenging for them. A much more likely scenario will be that some or many of them, as required, will join either the PPP or the PMLN, and they will cobble together a government together with the MQM and with the other parties. By themselves, because right now the independents don't have a majority on their own in any case. They will also need the support of either the PPP or the PMLN. And, to bargain for their support, they will say, you join us instead. So, basically things are up for grabs. It's not very clear. I think the situation will become clearer, maybe by tomorrow. But two other points that I would like to make. Because the PTI is no longer contesting under a symbol and not contesting as a party, they will not be eligible to get a share of the women's vote seats, which are 16 number. Those will get shared between the PMLN and the PPP, further boosting their tally. Second, this vote which has come to Imran Khan, I don't think so it is based on his performance as Prime Minister for 3.5 years. It is really a sympathy vote, for his being incarcerated, and especially in the last 1 week. He was given 3 successive sentences for 10 years, 14 years, and 7 years in 3 different cases. I think that has tipped the scales, and people have come out in large numbers to vote for him. The underdog is always favored. That's why people have come out in large numbers. So I think the situation should clarify in a day or two which way the wind is going to blow.
Right. So you're saying that he is getting the sympathy vote, and it's not necessarily because of his work as Prime Minister of Pakistan. Ambassador Sabharwa, if I can get you in, when it comes to the role of army or the interference of the army in this election, do you think they're as involved as ever before?
More than ever before. I think the army has intervened in almost all elections, sometimes a little less, sometimes more. But this time the army has been very active. We are talking of, this delay and post-poll rigging that is happening now in changing the numbers a little bit. In relation to your previous question, I think one of the things that they are trying to ensure is that these independents do not cross the halfway mark, regardless of the legal difficulties they have in coming together and forming a government, etc. I agree with Tilak that they'll be made to join, many of them, one of the 2 parties, either PPP or PMLN. But I think it's quite clear that much before this, the army had changed and tilted the electoral field totally against Imran Khan and his party. His incarceration, his conviction, in 4 cases, 3 in the last few days. Then the withdrawal of the symbol of his party, harassment of the people trying to file their nominations by the law enforcement agencies, by the returning officers, and so on. And right to the end, harassment of PTI candidates, those independents backed by the PTI. So the electoral field had been tilted completely against the party. But in spite of that, since their independents were getting significant numbers, I think they have had to resort to, and there are allegations with some justification, of post-poll rigging now to change the numbers in the course of the counting of votes.
Right. Mr. Devasher, coming back to you, what do we see in Pakistan right now? And earlier today, there was a report by the Moody's agency, the ratings agency, which said that Pakistan is facing a very challenging macroeconomic environment. There's a fragile balance of payments, weak growth, high inflation, and whichever government comes to power, it will have to negotiate another program with the IMF because the current one gets concluded on April 2024. And even for the current program, they will have to show ways to increase revenue, take some unpopular decision on taxation as well. In an environment like this, how easy is it for terrorist elements in Pakistan or anti-India elements in Pakistan to take control?
Leaving aside for the moment the issue of terrorism, as you mentioned, very strong measures will have to be taken by whichever government comes into power. But if the credibility of the elections is questioned and the government does not have legitimacy, it will find it very difficult to implement the tough measures that are required by the IMF and even required for Pakistan's own economic development. So this is going to be the biggest challenge for the government, whichever government it is, the lack of credibility of the elections and lack of legitimacy of the government. I don't know how they're going to get around it, but that is going to be a huge challenge. Second, as far as the terrorists are concerned, I don't think so. The army today is in the mood. They've got so much on their plate right now, politically, economically, the challenge of the TTP and the Baloch groups, that they would not like to open another front by trying to send terrorists across to India. I think that possibility can be discounted, but that does not mean that we let down our guard because, Pakistan is so unpredictable. Any madcap could try anything. So we need to keep our guard up. But I personally would discount the possibility at this stage of any major terrorist attack by Pakistan and India.
All right, we're heading into a short break, but we will request both Tilak, Devasher and Ambassador Sabharwa to continue being with us. We'll be right back and we will be discussing the road ahead for the key contenders in Pakistani politics and what the different political scenarios there after elections could mean for India and Pakistan together.